Welcome to Catherine Cisco, my domain of art making. So when I learned charcoal, it was probably in 2009. Started architecture school, and they were like, okay, you guys have charcoal in your pack, and here is a water bottle and some light. Go draw this. And then they hung up some fabric, and they're like, all right, draw this using charcoal. And we're like, what? How do we do this? Like, none of us knew how. Spent a lot of time working on it, kind of figured it out. Turned in something that I think was really fantastic, and not to be conceited, was better than a lot of the other people in my workshop. I was actually much better at doing artwork than I was at doing architectural renderings and stupid stuff like that, so I dropped that. I started actually art school a couple years later, and I've been doing all that ever since, and it's actually really been about 2 years since I even touched charcoal when I started. 9x12 charcoal drawing on green Strathmore charcoal paper. It is 64 pound, about 7 hours of footage that I cut down to about 5 minutes. This is a gift from my sister. About 2 years ago, like I said, when I was working on charcoal a bunch, she asked me to make a drawing of succulents for her, and I just never got around to it for whatever reason. But then I was like, oh, I want to do a charcoal drawing for my YouTube channel. It is a photo, so you can tell that it is because I worked directly from a photo. It has that depth of field thing that photos have, so it's like blurrier in the back and crisper in the front, which I liked because it made it a lot easier for me to get back into working with charcoal because of the blurriness in the back. I was able to kind of just like work on the blurry stuff first and then get into like the crisper stuff later once I kind of remembered how charcoal even worked. I used tape to wrap this entire thing. I used drafting tape, and I go into this in my supply list for using charcoal drawing in this video right here. Actually, it's funny because in architecture school they were like, use this drafting tape, run it against your fabric of your pants, and make it less sticky when you start using it. And that was kind of like one thing that I learned when I first started even making artwork, was like start with the background and then go into the foreground because it will just make everything easier for you. Something to remember when drawing in general is that bubbles have shadows, so that's interesting. If you want to just remember that, like whenever you're drawing, then it'll make it a lot easier to remember that the darkest shadow is going to be next to the lightest highlight. So always put something black next to something white, and it'll make your life so much easier if you just remember that little fact. During the editing process, I noticed that I would actually pick up a white pencil and then realize that I needed to make a softer highlight, so I would actually decide that I needed, instead of a kneaded eraser, I would have to use the eraser stick because the kneaded eraser gives you more of a soft outline. I needed that hard edge that the eraser stick gives you. You know, I never even used the plastic eraser, which I did talk about in my charcoal supply list. If I would have made a larger drawing, I probably would have needed the plastic eraser, but I just didn't have the space to use it, and it is not quite as precise as the eraser stick is. In addition to using the plastic eraser, not using the plastic eraser, I actually used the stump, the tortillon, a lot more than I actually thought I would, and I even mentioned this in my supply list that I don't use those things very often, but apparently I did because I used it in this drawing to give my highlights a much softer edge, and it almost had like a snow light effect with some of those highlights as you would see in like a blurry photograph. Something that I struggled with in this drawing a lot was my sketch lines. So I used a pencil a little bit, and then I actually used a charcoal pencil for a lot of it to do the outline of the sketch, to kind of just give me reference points for the charcoal values. And I dug a little bit too hard into the paper, so when I would use the compressed charcoal to like fill in a large area, it wouldn't get into the grooves or into the valleys and canyons and stuff that pencil made. So I spent a lot of time actually with the charcoal pencil trying to fill in those lines and pressing really hard to get charcoal or some sort of value into those like grooves and stuff, which was really difficult. So I think that's all I have to say about this drawing today. And I appreciate you guys watching. This is really fun to make. I'm really excited how great it turned out. I'm really proud of it, and like I said, it is a gift from my sister, and I hope she likes it a lot. And she is really supportive of my YouTube channel, and not a lot of people know about it. It's really nice for her to be so supportive about it. I'm absolutely ecstatic to give this to her, and I know that she'll be super excited about it because she does always like the art that I give to her. I should have just used the workable one because this one is sort of opaque or something, I'm not quite sure, but you can see the texture of the spray right there, and it covered a lot of the detail of my drawing, so it's not quite as vivid as it was before I sprayed it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.